Okay, we're back again. Today we're going to do about at least 26 different vids on this. So, got the board, got everything. So today we're going to be doing, let's see what I have here, coercion and setup. This is a question someone actually had. Alright, so, coercion. So we're going to explain everything. Just give me a bit to write it on the board. Coercion. And setups. Okay, so what exactly is coercion and how do you set one up? Well, we're talking about coercion. We're talking about getting someone to reveal their secrets, and there's many ways of actually doing this. Basically, how do you actually threaten someone? So coercion could be me trying to get an answer out of you, and you can do this by torture, you can do this by threatening, you can do this by blackmail. It happens to politicians, congressmen, it even happens to the president. Actually, a lot of people who actually end up hacking into the White House by going after the Secret Service or going after the president's personnel files, continuity government programs. They try to basically say, hey, we're going to steal these accounts unless you give us this information. And people hack other people all the time. So, coercion and setups. And this is going to be a very big one today. Interrogation and how to find other agents. So, we could start with other countries, but today instead we're actually going to do agents. So we're going to start doing interrogation. So, what's a way you can actually interrogate someone? Very simple. You have waterboarding. It's a form of, not a form of harm, of torture or somewhat. It doesn't actually hurt them, but it can kill them. So it's one of those silent things you actually have to be careful with. So there is waterboarding. And what is waterboarding? Okay. Waterboarding, you have at least 3 people there. You have the person, and they're on a slab. And we're actually going to do a video demonstrating. There's 2 guys. They said they actually wanted to waterboard me for demonstration. So they got a bucket and table and a little bucket thing full of water. And they're actually we're going to do it for 5 minutes just as a demonstration. But what is waterboarding? Basically, you have a small table here, and you have a bucket of water of some sort. So just a little, let's do this. Just a little bucket of water here, and you have a person basically lying down on a bench. So you have someone here lying down. I know it's a terrible head, but no, actually it's pretty good. It's not that crappy. You have a person lying down basically face flat on a table or so. And you have 2 people, or at least one person. One person is basically going to be holding the person's hands down so they actually don't get out. Or basically, you can actually just find a way to clasp it onto the bench. And you're going to have another person basically standing over them. And what that person is basically going to be doing is pouring the water over the person's head. But if you do that, they would drown. But what do? You put a cloth. Some people actually use plastic now because they said they wanted to be more environmentally friendly when you're treating terrorists from Iran or Afghanistan. So you could use a cloth, and what happens is when the water is actually poured over your face, it is supposed to simulate drowning. So sometimes they actually get a very, very thin layer of plastic, and they poke some holes in and around the head, but not by the nose. So when it comes at you, you actually feel the force of the water, and also you basically feel the water going in, and it's supposed to make you talk and reveal whatever they want you to do. So waterboarding is another form of torture. Interrogation, what's another form of interrogation? Threatening, blackmailing. So let's say you're a politician out there, and someone wants a bill passed, and it's your personal experience, and you basically say no. So what's going to happen? They're going to threaten you. They can basically, now, just an example, they can have your family hostage. They can take access of your money. They can threaten you. They can blackmail you. That's just a couple of things they could actually do, just to basically get you to comply. And so, all right, other forms of getting what you want or interrogation. There's the pins method and the electrocution method. The pins method is basically simple. You have someone sitting down in a chair, right here, for example, and 2 legs, a hand, a swan. But you have someone basically sitting down, and every 30 seconds or so often you keep pushing in another pin. Basically, sometimes you see even in the movies, someone rolls out a little cloth thing and it's got all these daggers in it and these weird machine things and sharp tools. Basically, that's just something to make you talk, but those things actually do hurt. And we're going to practice on that too, so just an example. But that's another thing. It's also called the pins method. I actually believe they do this in Russia. Still, they didn't do it in the U.S. because we're actually still on waterboarding, dealing with Iraq and Afghanistan. So, the pins method. Also, there's another method called electrocution. And many of you have actually seen this from the movie called Taken, where you've actually got a guy, Liam Neeson actually has him, he's the dad, and there's water on the floor here. There's a whole bunch of water on the floor. And what happens is, there's a chair here. And there's a guy sitting down the chair, and bad craftsmanship, but basically he's sitting down the chair, and Liam basically takes him and he takes 2 electrodes and he sticks them in his leg, just like that. But keep in mind, he's sitting in water. This is water right here, and he puts those 2 electrodes inside of his leg. And so what actually happens is he basically hooks these electrodes to a little battery right here, and then he ends up flipping on a switch. Once that switch goes in, not only does he feel it, but remember, he's not ground at all. That shock is also going to come from the ground, and also he can actually die. But that's why you actually regulate it. 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. Which is why they actually still do things called flip tactics. 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. It's kind of like a righty-tighty, lefty-loosey kind of thing. So you basically have this person here, and they're actually getting shocked. So it's more of the shock method or the electrocution method. Shock method. Okay. So now that you actually have something like this, that's just another way of interrogation. All of this basically would be interrogation. You can actually use blackmail to get what you want. A lot of people say, well, I know that you did crimes, or I know you haven't been paying your taxes for about 10 years, and I'll tell the IRS or fraud, or basically you have about 15 years, I think, to so-called pay your taxes before they can actually come and arrest you. Who knows? Who knows? All right, back to, that was interrogation. So let's do this. Interrogation methods. Okay, so you have coercion set up now, interrogation, and finding other agents. So let's say that you worked for, let's say you worked for a country, and hey, you know what? Let's flip this here. Let's do a new page. Let's say you worked for a country, and that country was over here. And let's just call this America. And if there are any of you in the CIA who are actually watching this video, hopefully you won't get upset when I start talking about certain things. Alright? Let's say this is Russia or Iran, Afghanistan, or some other country. Okay? And this is America. It's a bad looking man, it doesn't matter. This is America. You're an American agent, and this is the Capitol building here. American agent, and you've got a Russian agent. Someone coming in from Russia. Alright, now, you've heard of something called a spy ring. Spy ring is basically simple. When you send 2 or more people over to another country, and what happens is these people actually work together in order to get more intelligence out of a certain area. So you've had about 15 known spy rings in the U.S., about 60 classified, which is the number of spy rings in the U.S. right now. So, American agent. How does he find a Russian agent? Or someone who he believes is Russian? There are over 115 ways of finding that agent, which is the known number. However, we're only going to go through about 2 or 3 of them. So, how does the American agent find the Russian agent? Well, let's look at what happens. Let's say these guys, now we can actually talk about the Manhattan Project, but we're not going to go into that because we're running out of time. You've got the Russian agent here, and his job is to infiltrate into, what can he infiltrate? Now, they have a lot of leaks. Basically, when you're talking about the Central Intelligence Agency, they have a lot of leaks. The Secret Service has no known leaks at all. There were agents who actually infiltrated into the First Lady's entourage. I believe it was 2 Russians. Department of Homeland Security, they may have a couple of leaks, but there's no real reason to attack. Department of Defense, let's do that. Let's pick on them today. Department of Defense. Let's say these guys from Russia are going to come over to the U.S. and infiltrate the Department of Defense, or DOD as the abbreviation as we actually have it. So, what's their target? Going out at the DOD, and they want continuity government programs. Let's do that. Continuity of government program. Or basically called COG, which is how they actually call it. They want to know what happens in the event of a nuclear attack. They want to know what's actually going to go on. So, you got to find out what they're doing first. 1, you got a spy ring coming over to the U.S. 2, you've got agents who don't just want to get into the Department of Defense, but they want this material here. So, how do you know who's who? Basically simple. What do the Russian agents need to do once they get over here? They need to do 1, communicate. They need to communicate with each other to see who's getting the material, and they need to know who's bringing it back. So, you've got something called chain of command. Chain of command is basically simple. You've got, it's kind of like, I'm not going to say a pyramid scheme, but it basically is who's who doing what basically where. So you have these 3 guys here, and this person is the top guy. He's basically the guy who makes all the rules, and these are the people who basically just pass it around. So, you've got the top guy who basically says, you pass the information to me and I send it out. So you have to understand how they communicate and the chain of command. Another thing they're going to be doing is once they get that information, they're going to need a place to sleep. They're going to need a place to stay. Unless they're actually together, you never know. So, let's say they're not together. Let's say, better yet, let's say they are together. Let's say they're a group of people coming over and also they're terrorists. They've got background, you don't know what their background is, but remember, these people who are coming in, they're not just dummies, they're highly trained people. They've been trained to infiltrate in the agencies and do whatever they have to do to get that intel. So, let's say these guys all come together, they sleep together. Now, you want to know what's their drop location, what's the drop box. Because they're not going to go box. Basically, it's somewhere where you can take that information that you stole. Let's say this is the information that they had, and you want to get that information, and you want to put it somewhere where another agent will go back and basically take that and bring it back all the way over to the Russian headquarters or the USSR or the Russian secret police. You never know. But that's another thing they're doing. So you want to be able to identify who's who in the chain of command. If you can identify the top guy, you're going to find these guys who he's giving the orders to. If you get this guy, you're going to have to interrogate him and get more information about these people here. So once you identify, basically, I don't know what this list is actually called. You can probably call whatever you want. But once you identify the entire list, you can find how to find those agents coming in. So that's also how to find agents. Also, agent training and slip-ups. People slip up all the time. No agent is perfect. Now, how do you basically slip up? Let's say you were supposed to be talking on a secured cell phone, and you decided to use a payphone instead, and they had a list of your voice program somewhere else. Now, there's a program called Echelon. I don't know if you actually know about it. Echelon. I think it's NSA? The NSA might actually be using it. I don't think Central Intelligence Agency uses it. Basically what Echelon does is, if you pick up your phone and you say it's over 140 keywords that you actually say, which can include bomb, terrorist, president, Al-Qaeda, you mentioned jihad, you mentioned any of those 140 different words, it's picked up in a system and it's recorded. And what actually happens is that system actually checks your background, it checks out who you are, and if it finds out that this person has been picked up before, they were a threat, they were on a watch list, and now they just used one of our key words, they're going to send that into another system and then take it